Right. So this is what I was trying to talk about. The div here represents the parent. Double slash here represents find it anywhere. So this is giving me find it anywhere. That means it found in div whose ID is hmenu hyphen container. And then this double slash here represents find anywhere inside this. Okay. So please understand this this difference. This double slash represents find anywhere in the document, but this double slash I am applying after this, right? This means find this div anywhere within this container whose text is Amazon Prime Video, right? So this gives me the XPath for it. Any doubt here? I guess not. So once I'm able to find an XPath for a specific element, then I can choose to put some level of dynamism to it. So how did I do here? Let me show you that. So what I did, I created a string variable, not the by variable. So at this time I did not create a by, I created a string. And in that string, I have written something like this: hyphen div id hmenu / div text. And if you can see, there is a small percentage s here. Now this percentage s I have introduced inside this so that at runtime I can replace its value. To do that, I have made the use of an existing method present inside Java called as format. This is present inside string class. So right now I'm writing string dot format h hamburger menu link xpath, and second argument to this is link text. So what will happen at runtime? This will be picked as a string. This format method, what it will do, it will just see, do we have any parameterization here, any parameterized value here? If it is able to find it, it will at runtime replace this variable value from here to here. So that is how I am achieving this dynamism. So let's say I'm passing mobiles hyphen compute comma computer. So what will happen? This mobile computer will be passed from here to this method. This method I will go inside here. That mobiles comma computer will come to link text, and that link text will come to here. And from here it will say this format method will replace this value, which is mobile comma computer, and it will replace this value with the any value where we have percentage s here. So it will find percentage s, and this value will be replaced here. Okay, and exactly the same thing I have done for subcategory menu. Only difference here is there it was a div, here it was a link. Okay, let me show you that as well so that you won't get confused. Here it was a div, the text was inside a div, and if I click on, let's say here, and if I do this time, the link is present inside a link A, right? So I have created these two variables. These are not by, these are just plain variables, because why did not make it a by? Because I wanted to replace these values at runtime. If I would have done this, then it would have been a static thing. But here I wanted to run at runtime. I wanted to change this, and that is why I have. And in a page object model, you should be writing your XPaths, etc. at the top only, right? So that's why I put this inside string here, and I am right now using string.format class, string class format method, and then I'm right now creating a by directly here, and then I'm just doing click element. As simple as that. Okay, let me show you by debugging it. So this will be another exercise for you, maybe not exercise, maybe another explanation how you debug it. Let me show you how to debug this to see how these variable values is being going from one place to, or one method call to another method call. So what I'll do, I will place a breakpoint here, or maybe let's assume that this test case is failing for you due to some reason, and it's failing at some clicking of that element. So I need to find out why it's failing. So what I will do, I will just put a breakpoint here. Then I will go here. I will say, okay, put another breakpoint here, because that's where it's being it will go once the execution starts. And that's it. So what I'll do next is I will go to temp UI, and I am written here tags tag here. So for debugging purpose, I can use these tags, okay, because I only want to run, in this case, I want to run test case number 4. So I will go to my run temp UI. I'll put these tags as like this, and it will actually find, because in the feature files, I'm not mentioning which feature file. So it will try to look for this tag in all of the feature files, right? So let me just right click on this and do a debug as JUnit test. So it will start debugging, debug start, test case started, hamburger is clicked. Then this window will come. This means you have to switch to the debug. Do you want to switch to debug perspective? Perspective simply in Eclipse, it's Eclipse concept. It simply means the different combination of tabs. Okay. So if I do, whenever you want to do a debug, you should be clicking on switch. Okay. So right now, if you notice here, right now it's on the Java development. And if I do a switch, it will come to the debug mode. If you want to go back to the original screens, you can click here. It will just switch back you back to your original default perspective. So I'll click on this again. This is where it is. These are threads, different method calls. Last time we discussed that. It will keep on calling the methods and put them into stacks. That's how stack trace works. Right now it is stopped at this point. Here it is stopped. So we need to analyze what's happening. So first of all, for debug purposes, we will say, what is the value of this category? What's being sent from outside, right? So first if you hover on this, it will actually show you, or you can actually copy it, or you can just right click on it. Someone trying to add, okay, admit. Then you can right click on it, click on watch. Don't know what happened. Click again, watch. As soon as you do a watch, it will actually get added here. Let me just remove these values. Remove, right? So now right now I have a category as mobile comma computer. That means whatever I've sent from outside is getting here, which is fine. Next thing what I'll do is I will have to resume the execution. So next thing I can do is I can go to run, either click on resume or step into step over. These combinations I can use. So right now I'm choosing to do a resume because I have another breakpoint added here. So if you notice right now, it is mobile and computers is being passed here. It is stopping here. And this is what I wanted to show you, right? So if I just show you what will be the outcome of this. So if the outcome of, let's see what is the value here. So the value for this is this. Right now it's percentage S here, right? Now if I just show you, if I just copy complete expression here, and if I put it here, it will actually show you that it has at runtime replaced that link from this percentage S to this. So at runtime, this text, this XPath becomes a full-fledged working XPath. And this I'm converting into a by object, and that by object, as usual, I'm passing into click element to do a click operation. And exactly the same thing is happening for subcategory. Same thing happening there as well. So what I tried to explain you is how this dynamic XPath works, because last time, if I'm not wrong, someone was asking about dynamic XPath. I think Dishani was asking about it. So this is how basically you guys manage dynamic XPaths or dynamic locators at runtime. Okay, so I'm creating this XPath at runtime, and then I'm using that XPath to do my operations. All right, and I think the rest of the things will work as it is. Let me just resume it. So where is it? Yeah, so the test case completed. Let me, it has stopped again. Right, so this is another, right now what I'm doing is it's the last step. I think the last step for this test case is search results are displayed for products related to power banks. So all I'm doing right now is to validate whether the title is being changed. I can also choose to add few more validations for labels and headers and some more information which will say, okay, the search is successful. But all I'm doing right now is to check the title here. The title, how I'm doing it, I go inside this. I'll say search results are displayed, under which I'm saying validate page title match. This is a method I've created here. And here I have put passing the expected title. And I'm checking for the weight condition, that if weight for title contains, if the title contains power bank, which I am passing from here, power banks, if the title contains power banks, then, or maybe wait for 30 seconds before until title contains power bank, and if it is able to find, give a boolean b, and then just passing it as an assertion. So if it is not able to find this title there for 30 seconds, that means it will say a false, and then my test case will fail, and it will say it's not able to find it. All right, guys. So this is how I have automated this test case. Now, I really want to hear more questions from you guys. Did you guys understand it? What was the challenge when you tried to automate it? No issues? Is anyone hearing me?
Sir, let's suppose we have to validate all the subcategories with the line number 14 and 16 that you had parameterized with mobile and computers and then power banks.
No, I did not get that. What you just said?
Okay. Can you just go to the website?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Click on hamburger menu.
Okay.
And the condition is I have to validate continuously by one method. Let's suppose click on Echo and Alexa, the first thing.
Right.
Okay. Then after that, each and every link is clicked and validated one after another. Can we make it, or is it a very more complex thing?
Right. So you can do that. See, it's again a separate test case. Now, the test case scope of the test case. See, that's why we write test cases. So now this test case simply says do this. So I have only done this. But the scenario which you're talking about is also can be a valid scenario wherein you want to validate whether all the links which are present here are working. Now this will become a very huge test case, and really these kind of test cases are usually people don't automate. Because there is no need to automate everything. So if you notice, there will be like at least 1,000 links on which you would need to click after that. So every link will here have, let's say, 10 to 20 minimum, right? And you have many
every
here.
menu has submenu and
Right.
submenu
Right.
to validate something.
Right. So these test cases usually doesn't make part of a regression test. Reason being, it's too exhaustive a test. You don't really have to do that exhaustive tests, because usually in testing you imply. You will say when you write a test case, that's the role of a business person or functionality or the person or functional tester. When he write a test case, he will say, if this link is working, I will assume that others are also working. So usually you have to imply, or you have to create test cases like this. Like that's why we have those boundary value analysis, right? And different testing strategies and mechanisms to finalize what will be tested as a test case or inside the functionality. You cannot possibly test each and everything of the application.
Okay, sir. I am actually facing the same issue in my current framework, the TestNG wala,
right,
that I showed you earlier.
Right.
But the thing is that the question is that as you said, we cannot test each and everything by means the complexity or wise or the time taking wise it is high. So then it might be chance that in one of the category and the subcategory the text is not coming, which might cause an defect.
Yes, then it will be.
Then if somebody is asking you and we are giving such explanation like you had given to us, then how we counter this question?
Yeah. So see what happens now. This is again something related to functionality. Functional tester. That's the job of functional tester. So the thing is, you cannot possibly test everything. So what you do, you try to write all the high level, high risk scenarios first. Okay. Once you write your all high level, high scenario test cases, you actually execute only those test cases, right? Then you also might do some exploratory testing. And let's say you find a defect wherein you click on something, for example, man fashion, and you don't see a text here, or you see a link which is whose text is not coming, or some distorted text or something, right? Once these kind of scenarios happen, then you modify your test cases. So in the first attempt, you don't write all the test cases. what you do is, as soon as you get a defect, then you start writing more test cases to cover that defect. And maybe then you can start writing a test case wherein you can say, okay, I will just go and at least I will click here on all those links and I will see all the text is coming. That still is not a very huge test, right? When you have to go, how many times you have to go? Let's say 15 times here, 15 subcategories are coming. You go and click each category, and then you can just see all the text which is coming there is coming correctly or not, right? So then that can also be a valid test, right? Now maybe next time business says, okay, you should be validating all the links, right? Maybe that's, yes, you have to write it. So it really, this is an adaptive model. You adapt by learning what's happening with your application. What are the risk areas where the defects are coming? If there is a specific area where defect is coming and for that area there is no test case, then you have to write a test case for it, and then you will automate it. Getting it? So you adapt it.
Can we add up to this, like there is also a separate team of manual tester which is also there most of the time for this kind of e-commerce applications or something other business where lots of links and the text and images is coming? So we can say like this.
No, there's no special team either. There's no special team. The team is, it's a functional team. Then we have a UAT team. UAT is user acceptance test. They actually test more from the business perspective. They might also find a defect. They can raise it to us. Once the defect is raised, developer fix it, and tester create a test case for that defect. And then the automation tester will automate that test case. Okay, what you are saying is can be a valid scenario. I am not saying this is not a valid scenario, but it is a cumbersome, complicated, and more elaborate test case, which you usually will not automate or test in the first attempt. Even manual tester cannot go and click on each of these links and do it. So sometimes you have to start implying, deducing, right? If this is working, or 5 or 6 links are working here, that will, as you will assume that others are also working.
Okay.
And it is not a really high risk functionality. Okay, so that is also is to be discussed, because when you come, 90% people, when they want to search something, they just go here and search it. They usually don't go here and do all these things. At least 70-80%, right? People will go and search directly from here. So you also need to bring a proper balance between your test cases, what you are testing. Let's say there is a most important functionality which needs to be tested, and you are spending your time in automating this test case, right? This also is not a good strategy, right? So this is how basically test scope is
countering the question. The major point I have to cover, or anyone has to cover, the risk which is involved in the test case,
right?
We should go further.
Yeah, so that is why we have priorities in the test case, isn't it? That is why priorities are there. So when you have this kind of list here, for example, this QA test, right? So right now we have 31 test cases, right? Now usually people go and, even let's say you are testing it, so you will write many test cases for it, and you might also write this test case, what you just mentioned. But maybe we will say this is a low priority test case. We will not automate it. We'll automate some higher priority test cases. Getting it? Right now what we are doing is that's
why automation is introduced, for faster execution and for the high priority test cases.
Right. So first, automation wise, we always first automate the priority test cases. So first, this was the priority. The test, for example, this functionality can have many test cases. The functionality can have many test cases, by the way. It could have a test case for hello sign in. It could be a test case for logged in, logged out approach. Logged in, right now it's logged out test case. Now logged in, when someone log in and then he decides to search it, that can be another test case. Then the test case which you just said, that all the text is coming, the test case, click on each of the categories and then click on each of the subcategories. That can be a test case, but that test case will be a low priority test case. So I will not go and automate that, because it will increase my execution time as well, with no more added values.
Definitely.
Right? So I don't want a situation where my test pack is taking more time to execute and it's executing a low priority test case. So I have to find a proper balance. Okay. That's one aspect of it. Second is, if you want to automate this test case, let's say you want to go for each of these small links, then you have that, you can implement that here also. You can create a data table, or you can use scenario outline. That we will do for some next test case. We'll try to do that scenario outline. Continuously search for 5 or 6 products. Do we have it? Let me close this. I think we have it as well somewhere. I think, no, this was a data table implementation. Yeah, we did not, in the UI, we did not create such test case as of now, but we will surely be creating one. So that's how I would demonstrate how to use scenario outline. That would be like similar to data provider in TestNG. Running the same test case for different data. That is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you very much, sir, for explaining this, because I'm working on some kind of framework and it might be really get difficult. Right. I'm also thinking about how should I make this particular execution really faster and quick.
Right.
And if I'm doing the same thing again, then what is the point of making this thing by automating?
Exactly.
Or automation.
Right. So this is usually in the in the team actual real projects. This is like a very normal discussion which happens, whether we should be automating it or not automating it, because that debate can be triggered by anyone. Someone will say, okay, I'm automating this. Then you should have good enough points to say this functionality is not a risky functionality. It's not a high priority test cases. So instead of automating this test case, which is not a higher priority, why not automate a test case which is of a higher priority? And who will decide that? Maybe you can talk to BA, you can talk to your manager, you can talk to your scrum master, you can talk to, usually a BA is the right person to do it. BA tells you this, which functionality is risky, which functionality is not risky, which functionality is risky. Risky means it could lead, if the defects come in that area of the application, it could lead to a reputation loss or a business loss or a revenue loss, right? So the ASI functionality wherein you can sustain some significant amount of loss becomes an important risky functionality. Okay. So for example, in this case, this could be a low priority test case. If the defect appears here, no one is losing any revenue. Maybe some reputation ki yaar kya site hai, defect hai usme, right? But not a revenue. Similarly, if something is not correctly displayed in the footer, again a low priority test case. But if something is not working here, if you're searching for a computer and it's not giving you a result, it's a reputational loss, right? You're not finding relevant product. You're searching for computer, it's giving you something else. Not good, right? So these kind of test cases becomes the higher priority test cases. And that is what also we are going to start doing. So we have many test cases written here, right? We are not going to automate test cases in sequence, guys. We will not automate this in sequence. You see this priority here. Right now we have marked everything as critical, which is not a good practice. So when next time you create a test case, you also need to know what is the priority of the test case. And based on the priority of the test case, we start automating it. So what is the first priority should come at the top, and that we should be automating. Okay, guys. Any questions on this? Yeah.
I'm having some other doubts about this. Few of my friends are working as a complete manual tester, actually. And whenever a new builds come to them from dev side, they are actually doing for 1.5 week the text validation, then this particular thing that we had discussed, the repetition of kind of thing we don't do in this particular automation,
right,
kind of side. So then how we can in our scenario we are automation tester and manual both,
right?
So how we can say that if anyone asks us, then who verifies the text? If anyone is more interested or lean towards the manual side, the interviewer is from manual background and he is asking then who validates the text, the images, and the small things.
See, the point is, I'm not saying that you do not test those things. You do test it. If you have a test case for it, you have to test it, because then only you will say that my testing is complete for a sprint. In the sprint, you do two things. One, you write test case for the new functionality and you test it. Second, you have regression tests. That means all the old test cases from the previous sprints, you have test cases for it. Then you have to execute those test cases. That is for sure. Okay, there's no discussion around it. So if those test cases, regression test cases has test cases for texts, images, then you have to do it. All I'm saying is what you will pick to automate. Okay, so depending on what do you have for automation, if the test case, there's a test case which has higher priority, then you have another test case which has lower priority, you'll of course automate a test case which have higher priority, right? So the test cases has to be executed, someone will test it. That's why we have manual testers as well as automation testers. And manual tester and automation tester is not two different people, they are different roles, and you alone can be fulfilling both of the roles. So you can be a QA, and the job of a QA is to test the application. Now you can choose to do a manual testing, test cases which are not automated, and then you can go for automating test cases, and then you are also responsible for running the regression test cases either manually or automation. It's your job responsibility. So you are not, sometimes you're not the only one there, you have team of 3-4 people, or let's say 4 QAs. So out of 4 QAs, maybe 2 are working for manual testing, 2 are working for automation, or maybe everyone is working for manual and everyone's working for automation. Okay, so it depends. So maybe the example which you narrated, that there is a team who does the text. So yeah, it has to be done. If the test case is there, if the mandate from the BA is there, BA is saying this has to be tested, manager is saying, client is saying this has to be tested, then it has to be tested. Right now, in our case, we don't have any. I'm your Scrum Master, I'm your BA, I'm your dev, I'm your manager. So I am saying this test case is not a high priority test case, and I'm at liberty to say it, right? But maybe in a project, you go into a project there, these kind of scenarios are also important scenarios. Then you cannot say, okay, I will not auto because there's a low priority, because you can't decide whether what is a low priority or high priority. Who can decide? The BA, the client, person from the functionality background. He will say this is important, this is not important. Getting it? It just maybe
Yes,
some level of common sense can come to you. You can say, okay, this doesn't look a very important functionality, but maybe your BA can differ. BA will say, no, this is important, you have to automate it, this is high priority. So this prioritization happens when you create test cases. Right now, we did not put right prioritizations here. We've marked everything as critical. When you create a test case, at that very same point, you put a priority there as well. You will say this is a low priority, you will say this is a high priority. Maybe this menu, hamburger menu feature validation is not a critical, right? User wants to search a product del in the search text box and header section. This is a higher priority compared to the hamburger menu feature validation test case. Right now, it's opposite here. It's marked as high. This is critical. Otherwise, actually, this is a critical test case. This is a high test case, or maybe medium test case. Okay, so this prioritization.
Yeah, now I get to know the how to manipulate and tell the answer.
Right. Cool. Okay. Any more questions around this, guys? Yeah. So see, that is why it's very important to follow the complete process of a project, how a project, automation project works, because there are many aspects to it. It's not only about Selenium and learning to know XPath, learning to know okay, how to use actions class. All those things are important, but how to visualize everything in a comprehensive perspective is what is important. That is what I'm trying to give you guys, and that is what I want you guys to work upon. You can choose to work upon independently here and there. Guys, give me a minute. Right, so sorry for interruption. So this is what I want from you guys, that you should be working in a very, very realistic approaches of a framework and a project. Rather than learning standalone concepts from here and there, you should work like this, what I'm trying to project to you. Okay, enough said on this. Last thing which I want to talk about, I wanted to automate another test case. So that test case is actually about this. Someone wrote this test case and it's a good test case. Then that list is appearing here. So if you select for example, specific item, then that should be selected here, which is again, it's not a critical test case. It's a high or maybe medium test case, but we will automate it because I wanted to explain you how to use select case, this select thing, right? So maybe I'll not automate it now. I will record a video because I wanted to cover something else as well in this part. So let me show you something. So I wanted to talk about Jenkins. Actually, last week I and even Sarang tried to create a Jenkins instance on AWS, but unfortunately it wasn't working. It was taking too much time. I won't say it wasn't working, but it was actually taking too much time to configure. So I just dropped the idea, and I already had a local Jenkins. So maybe I will ask all of you to do that. Jenkins installation is not good. Is not difficult. Jenkins configuration can be a little bit tricky. I will try to cover it in the next session. Maybe not today, so tomorrow. I have another 10 minutes before I have to wind up this call. So Jenkins, I will try to cover tomorrow. Maybe how to configure it, how to install, how to configure your test pack, and how you will execute it. So I will talk about this tomorrow. Today, the last thing which I want to talk about was an assignment which I gave for select case. If you guys remember, I proposed this was the assignment which I gave. That assignment was, I won't say very simple, but these kind of scenarios actually happen in real world as well. The assignment was that you need to select a item in the list. If that item is present, then select it. If it is not present, then select something else, something that could be anything other than few specific values, right? So if I put this into contrast to here, so let's say I want to select for beauty or baby. Let's say I want to select for books, for example. If book is present, then select books. If book is not present, if books is not present, then you can select anything, but it should never be a baby or a beauty, right? So this was a scenario, and this is how I automated it. So I'll just try to explain this. Value to be selected is Monday, for example. If Monday is there, then what will happen? It will try to select it. If it is not able to find it, then I'm making use of try catch here, basically, right? So try catch is what I wanted to project here. If it is not able to find, then it will throw an exception. Exception will be a no such element exception. So if it is not able to find it, then don't fail it. Come here, check, get list of all the options present there, right? And then just loop in all those elements and search for a element whose text is coming inside this, because I want to select anything but this. I don't want to select these three things: Tuesday, please select, and Sunday. Other than this, I can select anything. So that is what I'm trying to do here. As soon as it loops through, and it is, if you're able to find Tuesday, please select, and Sunday in this text, it will skip it because I have put a not operator here. If it is not, if the element is encountered which doesn't have these values, then it will just come inside the loop. It will select it by index, and it will just break it, right? So it was straightforward logic here. You guys tried with different approaches. I've seen Rahul's code. I have seen Deshani's code. I don't know what about others, but these two codes I've seen, and you guys have tried to write logic, but some logic is static logic, because Rahul wrote static logic, wherein he was just writing that he just put cases. If Monday is there, then select, but that will become a static. What if I want to change these values? I have to change the whole code. I don't want that, right? And then Deshani used some randomized concept, which is again a good logic. So this assignment was not only about how to use select case, it was also about logic or algorithm. So this is not the only way of doing it. This could be a smallest, or maybe there's another solution which can be even simpler than this. So there's a possibility of that as well. But whatever logic you are writing can also be right if it is a good logic. Okay, so it should not be a static logic, but it should be a dynamic logic, so that all I have to do is to make changes here and it should work. So if you have written your logic, you can very well send it to me. I can actually tell you if that logic, what you've written, is right or wrong. It's not something that this is right, yours is wrong. That is what I'm trying to say. It's not something like this. This is right. Maybe your solution can also be right. It could be lengthy, but it could also be right. So I would like to see that what you have written. Maybe that way I can suggest you where your logic building is going. All right. So guys, we have around 2 minutes left. Any more things to discuss? Anything you want to talk about? Okay. So I'm